done through like eventually she'll start to like shake.
That's great.
Violently.
Yeah.
That's the one part that's a little janky. Is there's really no other way for you to show that it's unstable other than her legs just start doing the Macarena. She just starts going absolutely bananas.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I love the concept of it. Climbing games have oddly had like we haven't really had climbing games before, and all of a sudden there's like 10 climbing games.
I think Death Stranding has had a little bit of influence in this. How just getting from point A to point B can be really gratifying. I had to scale a wall that took us. So there's like a day-night cycle. So you have to worry about going out at night. If you're at night, it's colder and it's also harder to see your line. Like you kind of have to track and plan where you're going to go. Because if you just try to go straight up, you're going to fail. Like, it's very difficult. But at night, it's really hard to see. So you're just like, I'm just kind of winging it, and I'm running into a lot of problems because of that. And so there was this I feel like it's the midway. I'm not sure exactly how far along in the game I am, but there's like a midway point where you reach this wall, and it is so tall that there's no safe points anywhere in sight, and you have to just go up for multiple days up this wall.
Wow.
And just, it was a challenge to say the least. I failed. I literally had to start over, and we lost an hour of progress. I learned a lot, but that was the biggest, dare I say, wall I had to overcome in the game. Where I was like, this is almost to the point where I'm like, I'm frustrated and not having fun anymore. But then when I finally got to the top, I'm like, oh my god, I'm so glad I actually pushed through because it felt incredible. Like that's actually one thing that has permeated through this game is the sense of satisfaction when you actually overcome these challenges, which I was not expecting from a climbing game.
Yeah, it's really cool for devs to do that, where like I can see how you're explaining how they built it, where like you probably are learning the skills, you have more frequent save points, you're not getting massively punished at the start of the game, and then you get to a point and they're like, you've got the skills.
You're like, all right, you got it, good luck.
Here's a real challenge, and you're like, oh my god. That's fun. That's kind of ballsy for them to do that. Where most games would just kind of give you a nice little hand-holding the whole way through. And it's kind of, old games used to do this all the time, where when you failed, the setback would be pretty substantial. You're like, dang, I gotta do that all again? They don't do that as much these days because gamers inevitably get frustrated, and you don't want to kill your game's retention time or like have people give up on your game. So they get afraid and they go, no, let's make sure that people can get through this and complete it. And then they don't really have that sense of satisfaction because the game was too easy. So it takes some risk to go out there and say, hey, we're going to make this trickier, but we got to find the right balance, right? It's got to be just the right balance where maybe you fail once or twice and then you get it, and now you feel really good.
There are difficulty settings. Apparently there's like an assisted mode. There's the mode I'm in, which is like normal, and then there's like a hard mode. Some people have played the hardest mode, freestyle, where they don't use any batons, so they've got they're not using a cable or anything, and they go up the mountain in an hour and a half. And I'm like, man, I've been playing this game for like 12 hours, and I'm still not at the top. Like, how in the world?
You can do it that fast?
Yeah, exactly. That was my thought, right? So people, there's clearly a like skill to this game. I will say, one setting for me that really helped out is I was really struggling to identify what limb I was selecting. So the game, basically the game is about pressing X, but you direct where you want your hand to be held, and then you press X, and she'll like put her hand on the wall, and if there's a crack there, she'll probably grab the crack, right? And that's a good handle. But sometimes she'll go above it, and she'll just put her hand on the wall, which is not a good handle, right? And so you have to make sure you get in the right spot. But what this means is that if you're in a sticky situation where you're climbing up and her legs are starting to shake, you're like, okay, I gotta get to the right position, because if we don't, she's gonna fall. All of a sudden you're just spamming X, trying to like move the things in the right spot, but you're not sure what limb, because you're not aiming, right? And the game tries to select the limb that it thinks it will. It uses like physics and like what has the most stability to what should be selected next. So it's not just going around in a circle of like, all right, left limb, right leg, right leg, right? It's random. some, not completely.
Well, there's some logic to it, but
there's logic behind it, right?
You might not always know which limb it's going to select. It sounds like.
Right.
Okay.
You can select them yourself, which I do from time to time.
Yeah.
But what's really helped me is it will highlight now. I've got a setting on. It will highlight the actual limb, because if you're against a wall and all your limbs are tucked in next to you, and you're trying to figure out what limb it is. And all you see is your character doing this, and she's shaking. It's like, well, I don't know where I need to put my limb because I can't tell what is actually. So that was a great setting that I turned on.
Gotcha.
A little bit of immersion breaking, but I think it was worth it to actually get more immersed in the sense that I actually control the character the way I want to control it.
Yeah, that's cool. Looks like a neat game. It kind of this visual style reminds me a little bit of Firewatch.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
And I assume it has kind of a narrative that
there is a narrative.
unfolds. Yeah.
It's. I would not say the game. The game has some touching moments here and there, but the game is definitely more about the gameplay and moving up and out. Thematics is about isolationism and being alone with yourself and not being able to get over things, literally, right?
Right, okay. So some heavy-handed metaphors here.
Yeah, there's definitely some metaphors involved with the game for sure. Okay. It's not going to be for everybody. It's because it's a game about climbing a mountain, and it's very literally just climbing a mountain.
These are your middle-aged gaming experiences. We're like, mountain climbing game? All right. Oh, a game where you're walking across a long open field? Interesting. Sign me up. Yeah.
But if it does tickle your fancy, I would definitely consider picking it up for sure.
Cool.
And I still haven't finished it yet. The final stretch could be, just the worst thing ever, and I hate it after the fact. I don't know, but
I mean, people are beating it in an hour and a half now. Like, there's a problem.
What am I even doing, right?
Step up your climbing game. How are people doing it that fast? Because it only came out days ago.
I don't know, dude. It's sitting at very positive rating.
Nice.
With 2,600, so people are enjoying it, and it's for good reason.
I'm glad that companies are taking swings like this. I've seen a bunch of. You were playing a climbing game that was like a co-op climbing game last year. Yeah. And I know there's been a few other climbing adjacent or climbing injector games as well. So I know they've got a VR one too, which I'm just like, nah, I'm good. Don't need to look down like 1,000 feet.
Where to go?
Yeah. But climbing's in, man.
Climbing's in, guys.
Yeah.
Buy now.
I even like the climbing in the Zelda games. It was just got this little stamina wheel, and you gotta get to the thing fast enough before you fall. That was enough for me. I like it. It's fun. You know how I'm always harping on about Valve and Steam and all that fun stuff?
Correct. I am very, very much aware.
Well, apparently the UK shares my sentiments, and they are suing Valve. Well, they have
UK is.
Yes, they're attempting, I should say, to sue Valve in a lawsuit that just got approved. This one was started back in 2024, but it got approved to go through, where they're going to attempt to fine Valve $900 million, which is not a small amount. It's almost
pretty big. Pretty big amount.
It's almost the budget of Star Citizen, aimed at fair prices. And I gotta say, the social media response to this article I found really just like typical. Well, I found it typical because they completely missed the point. Most of it was aimed.
Because I saw people posted like, fair prices? What do you mean? Steam has the best fair prices for consumers.
Yeah. Well, and
that's how
also,
people interpret it.
Also, people don't understand why that might be. So one of the angles, so there's a lot of different aspects of this lawsuit. One of them is that Valve have a price parity situation where they don't like it when you sell your game for less on another platform. So when people go, Valve has the best prices, yeah, because you might get kicked off of the platform if you put it for a way less price on some other platform. Like, if you sold your game for less on Epic Games Store because they take less of a cut, so you can afford to do that, Valve doesn't like that. I think they have a bunch of contractual stuff in there that actually prevents you from doing it. So that's part of it.
That is some monopoly looking stuff right there, honestly. Yeah.
That part of it is not okay. Another interesting part of it is that they're saying that the DLC culture of saying, okay, well, you bought a game on this platform, and now you're forced to buy all of your DLC through that same platform for the game is non-competitive. It means that that platform no longer has to be appealing just because they now have you trapped as a thing there. And I was like, that's interesting. I never thought of that before. I don't know how you would change. I mean, it technically works on Steam where your game is installed on the hard drive, so as long as if you buy the DLC from another store, I guess that makes sense. I don't see a lot of
platforms do that too.
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Not just a Valve.
Yeah, and I imagine most people would probably just prefer to buy the DLC there, but I don't know.
Keep it right on your, yeah, exactly.
That's an interesting angle, and then the other angle, and then the other thing about the lawsuit is they're just saying, hey, the 30% cut that Valve asked from every single title is just way too high in anti-developer. And people are saying, oh, well, the prices for games are, fair or whatever. It's like, they'd be even lower if Valve didn't charge 30%.
Potentially lower. I doubt that they would be lower, but potentially lower.
Well, you could afford to sell your game for $15 versus 20.
Most games would probably keep the same price and then pocket the.
Yeah, or survive, right? They would keep the same price.
I'm talking most bigger titles, right?
Yeah.
But indie devs would have potentially more wiggle room to be able to be, instead of $25, it's $20.
Yeah. Well, and also just business economics 101 is like more of that money would go back into the game instead of Valve's pocket, in which case it then goes into buying yachts. It's like, do you want Gabe to have another yacht, or do you want another DLC for your game? I mean, you get invited to those yachts, Matt, so you might want him to have another yacht, but I personally would love
with Gabe, and I wonder what they'll be like. He'd probably be a really chill dude. He seems like a decent guy.
He seems super mellow. I think he's really into diving right now, so you gotta give him diving. Sure. Get your scuba, your diving license. They give out diving certification. That's it, right? You can be certified.
I don't think they just give them out. I think you have to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you dive down there. I'm just saying, get your certification. You can buddy up with Gabe.
Yeah, not open water. Hell no.
Yeah. Too many Subnautica playthroughs, you're just like, nah, I'm good up here.
I'm good. I know there's not the Kraken down there, but there could be.
I know, it's just something about, especially when the water's not clear, I'm just like, anything could be done.
Even on a lake, I'm like, ooh, no, I'm good. No.
Yeah, fair enough, man. I know, because a big old fish brushes your leg or something, you're like, yeah, what was that? And I'm like,
it's just not knowing what's there that I find scary. I'm just afraid of the unknown.
Yeah. Well, and also it depends where you live, right? If you're in Florida, stay out of the water.
Oh, yeah, dude, hell no. I would get nowhere near that water if I was in Florida. Yeah.
Yeah. So, fair enough. I feel you there.
We'll see what happens to Valve. I like Steam. As a user, Steam is great.
They're the best monopoly one could hope for. They got there by generally being anti-competitive, but now that they are a monopoly, they haven't really had any pushback to not do whatever the heck they do.
I understand why people are like, stop. What are you doing? Steam's great. They're great. They're good now, and there should be some checks. And what happens in 20 years when Gaben is no longer a part of the company, or they've got, they've sold, or we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen to Steam.
Steam could change their rate to 50% tomorrow. And there'd be nothing anybody could do, and there would be no competition. And by the time that competition starts to ramp up, because they're finally, Epic Game Store or whatever, or GOG or whichever game store is doing well now, Steam could just be like, oh, okay, fine, we'll drop it back down, and then wipe out the competition. There's so many anti-competitive tools available to a monopoly that people don't understand. And really, the only way to regulate a monopoly is to regulate the monopoly, and that's what the UK is trying to do right now. So I am for it, even though I'm not championing all UK policy against tech. I think there's some good, some bad. I think this one has more benefits than it does downside.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I don't think Steam's going to all of a sudden just implode because of it, but...
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Their employees might have to take some slightly lower salaries. Not everyone can make $1 million a year there. Yeah.
That is pretty cool how... I mean, it's pretty cool how their employees do make so much money and they get a lot of it. That is pretty awesome.